Hello, everyone. This is Cece Schatz, and I'm the doyenne of relationship building. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and this is a Going Solo with Cece show. You guys, our website is goingsolomedia.com, and we are the #1 internet singles talk network, and I hope that you love it as much as I do. And I love bringing these shows to each and every week. We have so much fun doing it. We have this wonderful array of hosts here on our station that really help you move forward in your life. And that's what it's all about, really taking you through some of the darkest times, connecting you with some really awesome guests and individuals that we have here on our station, and then lifting you up and moving you through to the next level of wherever it is that you want to go. Because, wherever you are today, you're just evolving, right? You're going to move forward into a whole new life. You're going to start really embracing your life and deciding what you want. And that's what it's all about. So today we have an exciting guest with us. I'm very, very excited to be able to bring her forward. And let's do that real quickly here so we can, do it. We don't have any trouble with this. Sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. There we go. It's great having you on here. So we have an attorney, Andrea Delaney, and she's from the Boston area. Now, she specializes in a lot of different areas, really helping you through family law and divorce. She handles child custody, child support, paternity, alimony, asset divisions. Maybe we'll talk to her a little bit more about that. And then, of course, we've got her website and her phone number up there so that you guys can have it, and we'll give it to you as we move forward. But our topic today is going to be compassion and guidance through the attorney's eyes, because they really do get to the muckety muck of things and, struggle because they want to help you. I mean, that's really, truly what they want to do, but they have to stay within the laws of whatever their city or their county is, and, their state is, and they have to do what they need to do. But sometimes it's not so easy when we feel the heart of that. So, Andrea, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you, Cece, for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight.
Oh, it's great having you. So tell me, what made you go into family law? Because I know there's a lot of different areas in the legal field that you could be in, but family law is it's a very touching one, and it really truly helps families. And sometimes we feel like we're dividing families, but we're really not. We're trying to get them in a better place. So tell me about your journey as to deciding family law.
Well, this is actually, law is a second career for me. This is my second career. My first career was in the business realm, and I did a lot of basically an operations manager. So I always thought through law school that I would end up being a business transaction attorney. And then I graduated, and it wasn't anything I wanted to do. So I hung a shingle, and one of my very first cases was a family law case that another attorney gave me. And I went to court, and I had no idea what I was doing. And next thing you know, I started getting more and more cases, and I really enjoy it because I like the ability to help people and help them work through the challenges that they face through the divorce process. And it's not just the legal side of things. There's definitely an emotional side that I help with. I can't coach them through, and I can't necessarily counsel them through. But it is important to recognize that. And I think sometimes as attorneys, we don't always remember that this is probably the most important life event that's happening to these people. And, we need to make sure that they're able to focus and understand the process and understand why things happen the way they are through the process, which I think is a very difficult thing for people to do when they're going through the process. I think when they get on the other side of it, they have a better understanding. But when you're actually going through it and dealing with the sort of the process itself, it's daunting and it's scary. And not knowing what the end of the day looks like, that sort of crystal ball everybody wants the answer to, is scary. And I think as a family law attorney, it's important that we help them through that. And that's what I like about it. And it's every case is unique for me, and I enjoy that as well.
Yeah, because every case is different, and then you have the family dynamics of it and what all they're going through. And
Right.
so you realize that they've made this decision. It's not an easy one to make. And then so now they're the process of the actual divorce, but the emotional, it's really a bit of an emotional roller coaster ride.
Oh, absolutely. Especially, I mean, we have the clients who sometimes are the ones that wanted the divorce. And then we have the clients that it was unexpected and they're playing sort of what I say catch up. They need to go through the process of getting to the fact that their marriage is over, where the other partner is already down that path, and so it's evolving for that person more so sometimes than the other party who made the decision, and so you have to take that into account too through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking too, is right now in today's world, we're dealing with the coronavirus, and
Sure.
A lot of us are having to stay home and be locked up. And, so I would think the turmoil of those that are going through divorce, this has to be hugely stressful for them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We are, dealing with that as best as we can. We've had some clients who have decided to move out by their own choice, just because of the constant sort of being around each other was too much. We've had clients that have done what is called a nesting arrangement, where they've rented another apartment, and these are typically for people who have children, and they switch in and out of the marital home so that the kids still have the consistency, but they don't have to be around each other 24/7. So there are some things people are doing to try to minimize that as best as they can. I think that the size of the home and the size of the family start and play into that. If they have the ability to sort of separate during the day, they're doing it. But it's not something everybody can do, and it's difficult, and we are fielding those calls as well.
Yeah, that has to be very, very trying. So tell us a little bit about, I know you're in Boston, so what is the system in Boston right now with regards to the court system? I mean, are you open, you closed, what are you doing?
We're both. How's that? The courts are open for emergencies only. I think the tricky part for us is, what is an emergency? And there is a standing order by the judiciary that spells out what it should be for the family court. And it's then being interpreted by each county just a little bit differently. So what one county may deem to be an emergency may not be deemed an emergency in another county. So my firm has engaged in some online discussion groups and things of that nature to try to get an understanding from the courts and the judiciary. What is it that you're hearing right now? What is it that we should be presenting to you right now? How do we get a case to you that may not be emergent, but is going to be emergent enough that it needs to be heard when we open? And so that's some of the stuff we're working on now. I will say, financial stuff, anything where somebody might be at risk of not having the ability to support themselves, not because of COVID, but because somebody's using COVID to sort of minimize support obligations and things like that, that would be deemed an emergency. And there are some situations with custody that would be deemed an emergency. But it's also important to note for in Massachusetts, our probate and family court handles things like guardianships and conservatorships, and that's sort of, unfortunately, because of COVID-19, becoming more and more necessary, where people are in the hospital and needing to make life decisions, and they don't have the appropriate paperwork already put in place. So now the courts have to sort of step in and make those decisions for them. So you're trying to figure out, you want to help your client as best as you can. It's difficult because you're very limited on what can actually happen now. What they're advising us to do is keep filing, and hopefully when this opens, we can all get in there, but we're not sure when that's going to be either.
What about like a parenting plan? When someone wants to put together a parenting plan, are you still able to kind of make that happen?
Yeah, so what a lot of is happening now is the judiciary, especially the probate and family court. We have a great bar here. We have a lot of retired judges that have stepped up, and so any type of conciliation or mediation that we can do during this time is welcome. If we have a matter that we come to an agreement on, the courts are entertaining those. So you file it with the court and they'll do a telephonic hearing just to approve the agreements. So those things are still happening. I mean, in the last probably 2 weeks, I've settled 3 cases, which probably wouldn't have settled if this wasn't going on, because we have the ability to sort of negotiate more, not run into court to have the judge weigh in on these. So now the parties and counsel have to work it through. And so we've had some real good success with that over the last couple of weeks. But it's not an exact science, and we're trying to encourage our clients to utilize those extra resources like conciliation and things like that, which many times there's no charge, and sometimes there is. A lot of times attorneys and judges will donate their time and try to get a third party to weigh in to try to get them over that last little hump that they may be stuck on to come to a final agreement. So we're still moving forward with agreements and stuff like that. It's really the contested stuff that's coming to a grinding halt.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes too, is during this time when things are so up in the air and we're worried about our health, we're worried about living and
Right.
dying, that kind of thing. Maybe it puts a little bit more perspective into place for those
Absolutely.
that are going through this, realizing, okay, are we really going to argue about, the coffee table? I mean, come
Right.
on, we can get
Right.
another coffee table. I mean, so are we gonna do those kind of things versus
Correct.
moving on with everything?
Yes, certainly for people who are been in the process for a period of time, I think that is one of the approaches that they are taking, is that, are we going to still fight over this one issue? What can we do to get past that issue, be it the coffee table or one day on the parenting plan, or is it an extra $100 a week or not? I think some of those issues are being sort of addressed and dealt with now. It's the people who are sort of at the beginning of the process where information still needs to be exchanged and gathered that are having a little bit more difficulty getting to that next step through this process, unfortunately.
Yeah, that
And
has
the
to
other
be.
thing, so what the courts have done is all discovery and things like that have been stayed until the courts open up again. So if you were expecting to get some information that you requested to help you sort of come up with a proposal for settlement, or documents or anything like that, you're kind of still waiting. There are some attorneys that are still, at my office, if we are producing it. It's a little bit more different. It's certainly challenging getting the data from the clients and then going through it and getting it set up to send to the attorneys, but we are still trying to do that to the best of our ability.
Yeah. Now, so let's talk a little bit about that, that beginning part that we start
Sure.
doing, that division of assets and trying to get together the documentation and the paperwork on that. One thing I noticed on your information on your website, and you guys got a really great website. And those of you that don't know Andrea and you're in the Boston area, I highly recommend looking at her website, because there's videos on there of all of their all the attorneys there, and I really like that. Because I've listened to the videos. I thought, oh, they sound really nice. They're really, and it's nice to be able to not only know that the person. Right. The knowledge, which I think most attorneys do, and knock on wood, we want to hope so, but also the personality of them. And so I thought that was really a very, very cool thing. But that brings me to thinking about the asset division.
Sure.
And how you divide your assets and how you do things like that. So let's talk a little bit about that. When you're starting, I know at the beginning when you're starting to prepare your paperwork and things like that for it, but is there anything that you could share also with our audience about starting to put your mindset onto dividing things?
Yeah, so I always advise my clients to put together a listing of what they think they have. I think that's first and foremost, because there's what they think they have, and many times what they think they have is not actually what they have. So I start sort of a basic, what do you have? And then we work together to sort of piece it together. In Massachusetts, there is statute that basically just, determines the factors the courts can think about in dividing assets and determining whether there's to be a support payment outside of child support. And so, we discuss some of those factors. And it's not any one factor that the court considers. And a lot of a lot of times clients get hung up on that. So if there was an extramarital affair, for instance, they feel like that should give them a bigger chunk of the asset division, but that's not necessarily the case. So it's sort of putting that in perspective and saying, at the get-go, you sort of start at 50-50, you're both here. And then the scales sort of tilt based on these factors in the statute. And how much they're going to tilt in either one direction is really going to be based on the severity of that factor. So, if you're dealing with somebody who's getting divorced in their 30s or 40s and still has a significant work life ahead of them, and has the ability to support themselves, they'd probably be closer on that sort of 50-50 asset division. If you have somebody who's older, has been out of the workforce for a while, doesn't have strong prospects for being able to support themselves, and they may get a disparate division of the asset and get a higher percentage. So those are the types of discussions I have from the beginning. What is your family? What is your marital life been like? Because that's just as important as what your divorce, to determine what your divorce life is going to be. And then sort of putting it into perspective for them of what it looks like post-divorce, because I think that's really the challenge, right? What does this look like for me when all is said and done, and how do I live? And sometimes that's you putting them in touch with an accountant or a financial planner to say, hey, here's what my attorney thinks I'm going to get. How do I use this to live for the next whatever long they have? So the beginning process for me is really information gathering, including, what is your lifestyle? How did you live?
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. And so maybe make a list of what you think of what your lifestyle is.
Correct.
Like
and that
did you go on vacation?
Correct.
And what did you spend normally on presents and, those kind of things? What do you think and you really got to put together a budget, as to what you think you're going to be spending for yourself and all of that kind of thing. Because we don't realize, until we're put into that situation, what we have to do, because usually one party will, in a marriage, one party will handle something and the other party handles something else. And so you don't always come together on that. So I think lists are very, very important, building different lists and
that's part of what we do. In Massachusetts, you're both required to file financial statements. So it's a detailed listing of your income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. And so we use that as our starting point. And we put together for our clients a comprehensive list of expenses. So things that you don't typically think about, but how much do you pay to get your hair cut? How much do you pay for your nails? How much do you pay for your kids' clothing? How much do you pay for your kids' haircut? How much do you pay for school lunches? And it's a really detailed list. And I think it's very helpful for the clients because it really makes them think about those things.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do in this year for food? What did I do this year for vacations or other like? And so it really helps them from the beginning have to start thinking about these things, and then use that with the assets and the support scenarios to sort of help them to see what it would look like at the end of the day. So we're starting that process right at the beginning.
So, well, a lot of them talk to me about that, and they say, well, I can't afford to go get my hair cut, so I didn't put it down, And I know that even myself, when I was filling out my financial affidavit, I filled it out according to how I was living then, which was extremely lean, not how I was living when I was married,
So we tell people, take a snapshot of what it looks like today.
Mm-hmm.
Today, what are you spending money on? What is, if you took your bank accounts, what is the numbers? And that's where we use as the baseline. Certainly, there are certain situations where, yes, you're not going to be able to go to the spa once a month like you used to, but that doesn't mean you still can't get your hair cut. So, you got to put it in perspective, and I think it helps by doing that so they can actually see a lot of people, myself included, where does the money go, right? That's the question. Where does your money go? And so I think to start them with that, coupled with, you made a good point. One partner in the marriage is doing one part of the marriage and another part's handling something else, and many times they're not together. So we have many times people who have no idea what their finances are. They don't know what they're spending money. They have no idea what's in their bank account balance. They have no idea what their assets are. They don't know what retirement accounts look like. They don't even know, sometimes we have clients that don't even know what's in their own retirement accounts because they never look at the statements. So the beginning is really, really a time for us to dig into that with the client. So not only are we figuring it all out, but they're figuring it out for themselves, which is equally important.
Yeah. And something what I've found that I've learned a great deal from my divorce and from doing the financial affidavit and all that kind of thing. You really learn to look at everything.
Right.
Because I always thought, well, I wasn't going to be one of those wives that didn't know what was going on. Yeah, I was one of those wives that didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So, because you just get so trusting, you're with somebody for so long, you think that they wouldn't possibly do the things that they do, and very surprised. So but going forward, it really does teach you. You do a real wake up call, and it really does teach you to look at and analyze things differently. So let's talk a little bit about. We talked about maybe the assets or your financial affidavit there, but let's talk a little bit about the debt. Now, how does one start figuring out all of the debt that you have?
So we work on that in conjunction with the financial statement. So, I mean, today's day and age, there's debt for all sorts of things. So we still have clients with student loan debt, depending on when they went to school, student loan consolidation debt, and they have children who will be getting their own student loan debt soon. We have clients that have extreme credit card debt, even though they have high incomes, they just use the credit cards as well. So we have to factor that in, and obviously it's got to be handled equitably. And that's the trouble. What is equitable? Some people think, well, that's not my credit card, I shouldn't have to pay for it. What did they use that credit card for? Did they use it for the last 4 vacations you guys took together as a family? Did they use it to buy food for the home? So that has to be factored in, along with, can you afford the mortgage if you keep the house? Can you refinance the house if you're going to stay there? Can you afford the car payment you have if you continue on? Are you going to continue leasing, or are you going to buy? So those are discussions that we do with that, because at the end of the day, not only are the assets being divided, but the debt has to be taken care of too, so that both parties can come out of that on equal playing field and not one person's taking more of the debt or more of the assets with them. So we try to factor that in when we talk about division of assets. We're going to pay these credit cards down, or this one's going to be full responsible for this credit card, and this is how the payments are going to go, and things like that. In an ideal world, they have enough assets to cover that debt so that we can try to minimize as much of it as it can. But there's certainly circumstances where that's not possible, and we have to sort of divide the debt into the divorce agreement.
Yeah, it can be very tricky, but it's really compiling the information at the very beginning, just
Absolutely.
trying to be as thorough as you possibly can. And in the long run, I think that will benefit all parties. So once
absolutely.
You get
the more
all the
informed you are, the more informed we are, the better. And sometimes it's very paper heavy. A lot of people are like, I have to get you more documents, and I have to go back how many years? And it's like, yeah, but the more information we have, the more we can advocate for you, really, because we can look back, and instead of taking, say the last 3 months because they were contemplating divorce, things have changed for them as far as them dining out or something like that. We can then go back and say, yes, but historically over the last 3 years, this is the amount of money they spent on these things. And so that shouldn't change just because the last 3 months things have changed where they were contemplating divorce. And so it's important that we gather that information and sort of take a deep dive backwards and go into it. I have a lot of clients who say, well, I know what everything is. I know what my husband spends on this, or I know what my wife spends on this. And then they're quite surprised when they actually see the data that it's not even close to what they thought the spending was, or the earning. Sometimes it's even the earnings. So, we stress to them at the beginning, we call it sort of top heavy. The beginning of your case is really top heavy because it's really information gathering for you and for me. And I think that's daunting sometimes when they first walk into this process because it is so information heavy.
Right. And they're dealing with the emotions of it. And then they got to do all the gathering of all the documentation. And then there's trust issues that are in there, and
Well, the trust issues always get in there.
yeah,
And and that's why I said, well, if that's a lot of times when we talk about is, well, if you want that information, we have to give the information too. So that's, it's a little bit of quid pro quo. Like, don't expect me to ask them for 3 years worth of credit card statements and don't expect that they're not going to ask you for the same data. Because that, once that door opens, the Pandora box, once it opens, that it's going to, information is going to exchange.
yeah, absolutely, for sure. Well, I tell you, we're going to have to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about that sticky subject of alimony. Everybody always wants to know about alimony, child support, those kind of things, because that's something that's sometimes can be long-term or short-term. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back. So I want to thank you so much, Andrea Delaney, for being here with us today. You are a legal professional in the divorce family law area. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come right back. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I tell you guys, we have to take a quick break. You guys are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and this is the GoingSoloMedia.com. I'm CC Schatz. So we'll just have a moment of silence here, and we'll be right back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You guys are listening to Going Solo with Cece on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I want to make sure that I give you guys my email so you guys can contact me. I'm Cece Schatz, the doyenne of relationship building. I really help take you through some of the darkest times in your life, connecting you with some really, truly awesome individuals, hoping to move you through to really living the best life. Your absolutely best life, the life of your choosing, and that's what it's all about. So I love to get your mail. So my email is goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. You can find our website there at goingsolonetwork.com. It's got everything on it that we do, and we do a lot of stuff because we are a complete singles network. And of course, we started the brand new site, which is goingsolonextstep.com, and that's we call it the transitional site. That takes you from relationship loss, maybe divorce, through to the transition of dating, not dating, but through that transition, that muckety muck area that you go through, that you're trying to sort things out still. But you realize that you do want to have someone into your life as you move forward. And so we're hoping that we can help build you up, build your vibration up so that you can really attract that wonderful individual into your life. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. Catch all our shows right on goingsolomedia.com. But we're going to head on back to our show because we've got a lot going on here. And so let's bring our guests back up. Welcome back, Andrea.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, it's great having you. Those of you, if you missed the first half of the show, you must check back in and listen to the rebroadcast because we have Andrea Delaney here with us. She's from Boston. She's a family law attorney. And our topic today is compassion and guidance through the attorney's eyes. And so often they see a lot that, that goes on when we go through that a divorce and some of those difficult times that we're entering in. But just to let you guys know, recap, Andrea, she specializes in family law, divorce, including child support, child custody, paternity, alimony, asset division. And again, there's her website. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too, a little bit later on in the show. But it's right up there for you. It's fieldsdennis.com, and her phone number is 781-489-6776. 781-489-6776. So, okay, welcome back to the show.
Well, great to be back. Thank you.
Well, we talked a lot about, the first part of the show, we talked about a little bit of asset division. We talked about a little bit of debt planning. What I really enjoyed and liked was the fact, and no one ever said that, was really making a list of your lifestyle, making a list of all the things that you do throughout the years that you've accumulated. And this also helps you to develop your lifestyle, but it also gives you, I think, a little bit of a wake-up call, because you do know that you're probably not going to have the same exact lifestyle as you had before. I mean, we got to get real. We got to wake up here a little bit. And maybe some might be better off than others, but the reality is now it's time to really start planning our lives. And so with doing that, we always think about that dreaded alimony.
Yes.
So tell us about Boston. What is alimony there? Are you guys still receiving alimony? You still doing it?
We're doing the alimony. The alimony is in Massachusetts. They're very kid-centric, or child-centric, I guess is a better way to say it. So the first and foremost is, are the kids and the children being taken care of? So the first things the courts look at is child support before they even get to the alimony. Is there money here for the kids to be taken care of? And then once the kids are taken care of, you sort of go to the next step with the spouse. In Massachusetts, if there is a child support order in place or going to be put in place, and the spouse receiving the child support is also the one that would be receiving alimony, they start with that first. So they'll take the first $250,000 of income and say, from this $250,000, here's how much child support you would get based on the guideline information, which includes how many children, the children's ages, and expenses that are paid, like health insurance, daycares, things like that. And then if there's money left over, and again, this is based if you have kids, if there's money left over, that additional money would be put towards alimony, or could be put towards alimony. What's happening now is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act has it such that our alimony can no longer be includable in the receiving spouse's income, nor deductible in the paying spouse's income. But the Massachusetts statute hasn't caught up to that yet. So it's causing a little bit of difficulty because we now have to take a statute that requires an alimony payment to be 30 to 35% of a payer's income, or the difference between the payer's income and the receiver's income, and put that into perspective where the payer can no longer deduct that from his taxes and he's still paying taxes on it. And so we're coming up with percentages 22 to 25, 23 to 27% of the income. And so the first step we take when we do this analysis is we first look, is this a case for child support? And if it is a case for child support, how long will that support be in place for? Massachusetts alimony statute has different tiers of how the alimony duration will work. If it's a short-term marriage, it's unlikely that you would have alimony, or you would have alimony longer than a small percentage of your marriage. If it's a long-term marriage, which was 20 plus years, the payer spouse could be paying alimony until they retire. And that's what the current statute says. So our first step is to find out, what is the length of the marriage? And that's not as clear-cut as you think it would be, because other factors can be taken into place, like, did you live together before marriage and hold yourself out as a couple and commingle funds? And should that be taken into consideration for length of marriage? And when was the filing and service date? Because that's when the end date of the total income. So those are things we talk about. And then the question is if you are earning an income, are you self-supporting? So the baseline under alimony in the statute of Massachusetts is need and ability to pay. Is one spouse has a need and the other spouse has the ability to pay alimony. So the next sort of level is what is your real need? And that goes back to what we talked about earlier. What was your lifestyle? Because your need should be based on what your lifestyle was. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get the same amount of money, obviously, because you have one pot and now it's got to be divided into two. But it should be factors to be considered when determining what your needs are. And then the third factor is how much is that going to be? And that then takes into consideration the incomes of the parties. And with the way compensation works now, especially for the financial sectors and some large corporations, they're getting very creative with their compensation packages. And so sometimes it's not just a straight income. Sometimes it's an income and a bonus, or income and some sort of commission structure, or restricted stock units or stock options. And so that all has to then be factored into, is it an asset to be divided where somebody can take a stock, or is it something that is going to be an income stream in the future? And so the alimony isn't, it's a tricky little thing, that alimony, because it's not just like, here's a pile of money and this is how much you're going to get and how much you're going to get. You have to sort of factor in these other things. And some of that will also be, what was the asset division? Did somebody get more in the assets? So therefore their need for support may not be as much. So we have it, and it's out there, and many cases I have it. But there's a lot to work through to get to what that number looks like.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking that a lot of people are probably really going crazy with the stock market being down and all the retirement funds and all of that. And when they're going through divorce, especially if they're in the latter part of their life, they're probably totally freaking out now.
Oh, absolutely, because we've been working on sort of an asset division schedule that took into account these values that have been depleted. Sometimes because some of the parties have to use that to live off of right now because their work has slowed significantly, and sometimes it's just the market. And so now you sort of have to factor that into work you've already done, coupled with the fact that do you wait to see if the market recovers? I've had a couple clients say, well, I don't want to divide that account now. I want to see if the market recovers. It's like, I don't think the market's going to recover as quickly as this divorce should be finalized. So I'm not sure you want to wait that long. So there's a lot of things to think about, and that all plays into the alimony. If somebody has stock options, those can be divided, and that's an asset. But some people want to keep the option and use it as an income. So you have to really work with your client to find out what it is they want to have at the end of the day. Some clients say, I don't need as much money now. I want it for later. I want it when I retire, or I want it when the kids get older, or whatever the case would be. And some people are like, no, I need that money today because I need it to live off of it. And so we have to factor that into how we're going to handle the alimony payment, or how we factor that in to an asset division.
Well, let's talk a little bit just briefly about the jobs. Often I hear in my divorce support group where the spouse will end up either having their own business and saying that they don't make as much money, or they'll take a lower job, so they drop their income down significant. So, someone that's making 6 figures is now making 40,000 or 35,000.
That doesn't work well here in Massachusetts. The courts will look to see if a person purposely reduced their income ability, and they can impute income at the higher level to that person and say, you have the earning capability of $300,000. You're choosing to earn $40,000, so your support for child support and alimony is going to be based on your $300,000. And sorry, and they don't take that lightly. It's pretty significant, because we run into that a lot, not only at the beginning of the cases, but a lot of times modifications where one spouse says, well, I'm working so hard and I'm not enjoying life because I have to pay for all these things, so I'm going to work less and I'm going to modify my support to reflect that. And the judge will be like, no, that was, you have a support order. That's what it's got to be. So they really look into, if somebody goes to a court and saying, I need a modification because my income dropped, they really look into, why did your income drop?
Right. So they are smart. I mean, and it's like a lot of them will think they can just pass that off and do that. And it really, I think it burns them, because the court has seen this. I mean, it's not something new. They've totally
Yeah,
seen it.
It is amazing how many people think they can reinvent the wheel, as if the court hasn't seen these things before. You have this self-employed person who all of a sudden is making $30,000 a year, but they're still driving a $100,000 vehicle, and they have a boat, and they have 2 houses, and none of it's been sold, and none of them have been remortgaged. So how are you still affording all these things when you're making so much less money?
Right. So you just have to be smart about it. Well, we're coming down to our time of closing here, so I want to make sure that we've got the information here so they can reach you. Your phone number again is 781-489-6776, and the website is www.fields, F-I-E-L-D-S, Dennis, DENNIS.com. And so I hope you guys will go on, check out her website and listen to her little video that she's got there, and then a lot of the other videos, because I think, you know, you want to really make the right decision on your attorney that represents you. And so I think it's really good to look at a lot of different websites, check them out, you know, find out about them, get referrals, you know, talk to people, because this is going to be really the platform of your future. And so you really do want to have somebody that knows what they're doing, knows the law, can move forward in it, but you must know they're not a therapist. They are an attorney. And so I recommend you getting a therapist, and we can give you some great names for therapists, but you want to have, you know, the right person in your courting, and you really want to have a team. So, you know, that's why I say a therapist, an attorney, you know, maybe financial planner. There's a lot of different elements that go into play of building a new future for you. So, so I think that, you know, Andrea, I think you'd be great to be on someone's team. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today. Yeah, it's great.
And we often tell people this is the biggest business decision you'll ever make in your life. And so you want to make sure that you hire somebody that you feel comfortable with and you have a good fit with. Because if you're not comfortable from the beginning, it won't get much better through the process, unfortunately. So take the time, do your research, meet with a couple of attorneys. I tell people all the time, you know, go meet with somebody else, see what they have to say, because that's important. And you have to feel comfortable with them.
Yeah, absolutely, most certainly do. And you can tell Andrea knows her stuff. She went from one process to another, so she knows, you know, how long have you been practicing? I should have asked you that.
Almost 14 years.
14 years, yeah, so that's a long time, so certainly. And, you know, laws are, you know, changing, things are happening, and so you stay abreast to all of those things so that you can support your clients through that. So that is pretty awesome. So again, you guys, this is Andrea Delaney, and she specializes in family law, including child custody, child support, paternity, alimony, and asset division. Her website again is Fields, F-I-E-L-D-S, Dennis, DENNIS.com, and her phone number is 781-489-6776. She's in the Boston area, so if anyone is in that area and you're looking to get divorced, I hope that you will tell her that you saw the show here and that you'd like to have a conversation.
Be happy to meet with you.
Great. Well, it was wonderful having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, the time goes by so quickly, you know? I just can't get over how fast it goes by, but I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope it was informative for you. I think going through divorce is really one of the toughest times in your life, and it's not a pleasant experience, and so we want to try to lift you up and really give you information so that you can be educated enough to be able to talk to your attorney, to be able to move forward in your life and really develop the lifestyle and develop the life that you want. And that's what's so important. So again, right here on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, I hope you enjoyed the show, and let us know if you do or you don't, or what you'd like to hear. We'd love to hear from you. Again, my website, my email is goingsolonetwork@gmail.com, and our website is goingsolomedia.com. You'll find this show and a lot of others right there on the on our website, but you'll also find them on YouTube. And so this is live on Facebook and YouTube. And so all of our shows are right there archived on YouTube, and you can just listen away and all different subjects, anything that you have an interest in, because we're trying to get all of this informative information out to you for singles. So we got a lot of fun shows happening a little bit later on tonight. I hope you'll stay right here on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Facebook page or YouTube channel, and we'll have another show coming up at 9 o'clock. We've got on Eastern time. So we got one at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock. So we got a lot of excitement going on. We have the boy and girl thing. We're going to have an online singles party. So I hope you'll join me there. That's at 9, 10 o'clock. We're going to have Arnie Fonseca Jr. He's got a wonderful guest on talking about finances. So I think that's really crucial in this time of our lives, and also with what's happening in the economy, to talk a little bit about that. So he's going to have a wonderful guest. And then we're going to move right forward to Think It Twice. And I love that concept. So we have Mr. Twice on. He's going to talk about confidence and the supreme confidence, our self-confidence, how valuable and important that is. So I hope you guys will enjoy all of our shows here on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am CC Schatz, a doyen of relationship building, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. See you at the same time, same place next week. Bye for now.